Okay, good evening.
Otterbox.
Welcome to the Falls Township Board of Supervisors meeting for February 19th, 2019. We'll begin with the salute to the flag, please.
I forgot my phone. Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Take the roll, please, Mrs. Pullen.
Mr. Galloway?
Here.
Mr. Brasky?
Here.
Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Dents?
Here.
Mr. Rockwell?
Here.
Okay, before we begin with the agenda, we do have a special presentation tonight. Like a couple months ago, our Recorder of Deeds, Robert Robinson, was here to talk about the program she's been running up the county to refurbish and really save and preserve a lot of the deed books, which had really fallen into some pretty sort of embarrassing states of disrepair over the past couple decades. And so the township made a donation. I know she's here this evening with her first deputy, Mrs. Humphrey. So, Mrs. Robinson, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Gail and I are here tonight, and we are so excited to present you all Book 1, and it's in 2 volumes, that you all repaired both of these volumes in full. And this is just so exciting to us and everyone. I've been taking the books around the county, and everyone is so excited and so grateful to Falls Township for really helping us with Book 1. It's just been absolutely fantastic. So I'm hoping to get a picture with all of you, with Gail and I, in these books. And if you want, we can leave the books for a couple, week or whatever if you have a place for them. It's up to you guys.
Sure, we could do that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure.
And we'll be able to come and
Sure.
see 'em.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure, yeah, absolutely. Love to. Yeah,
Okay.
We're glad to help, and thank you for doing the work.
Oh, thank
It's a
you.
shame it sort of wasn't done before, but thank God you're there to do it and kind of see, because this is the history of the county, it's the history of the Commonwealth.
Yes, and this book has the records dating back to 1684.
So
Yeah.
So thank you. Right, so you want us down there, I guess?
Yeah.
Where we went crazy with a bunch of months, and then we went to like 4 or 5 year period where we were like running neighborhoods. Yeah, we're back to a bunch of it. But every place is crazy now.
And these books are going to last now for 500 years.
Thank you, sir. So let it be written. So let it be done. Yeah, leave. I'm gonna spill water on it, man.
I'll save it for you. There's a really great little
Nice. Okay, we have quite a few names on the sign-in sheet here. Just for some clarification, we do have 2 sign-in sheets. One's a resident, one's non-resident. I do see a couple of names on the resident sign-in sheet that are not residents. And so I'm checking the non-resident to make sure that somebody who's a resident didn't sign in on the wrong spot. And the sign-in sheets, because I know we obviously have a pretty full crowd. Just for those who've never been to one of our meetings, these are if you want to speak. Some people sign them thinking they have to sign them because they're here at the meeting, and then we call their name to speak, and they look horrified that they don't want to speak. So if that was a mistake someone made, that's fine. And I'll do my best job or the best job I can on the names. If I mispronounce a name, obviously I'm not doing it intentionally, so I apologize up front. But they look relatively simple.
Can I say something before we start?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of new faces and a lot of regular ones, but we know why most of you are here tonight regarding Elcon.
Yeah.
Now, the five of us may sit here and you might think we're ignoring you or we're just sitting here stone-faced because we've been advised by our legal counsel that we shouldn't discuss Elcon with anyone. We shouldn't comment on it publicly, so we're not going to. It's not that we're ignoring you. We hear you. We see you. And the other thing is I received an email. We receive a lot of emails, but one was asking us why we're even entertaining this, why we didn't just say thanks but no thanks and give it back. Because legally we can't do that either. We have no choice. When they came and submitted their plans, we have to review the plans. We have to let them come and make their presentation. So it's not an option for us to just say thanks but no thanks and give it back to them. Just so that we're clear on all that. I just wanted to get that out before we
Yeah, I was going to
start.
say that too. Just a property owner, whether they're owner of a property or prospective owner of a property, whether it's an industry or a home, whatever it happens to be, they do have a right to that property and to develop the property in a way they feel is appropriate. They have the right to present those plans to us. We have a legal obligation to review those plans and essentially, give reports based on how those plans meet with state and local guidelines, codes, building construction codes, et cetera, et cetera. As Mr. Dent said, we don't have the authority to just ignore, just like we don't have the authority to ignore somebody who wants to put an addition on their house in Levittown or Fairles Hills, and we just ignore it. We don't have the right to do that either. So in that sense, we are at the moment, just maybe this will answer some of the questions, the standard procedure here, which is going to remain standard through all developments, as long as I think as we're here, is that proposals are submitted. They go through our professionals, engineer and legal. They go through the fire marshal's office, code enforcement, zoning. They go through the various boards and commissions that are appropriate to see them. Not every board or commission sees every single submission for a variety of reasons. That is the process happening right now. The Elcon proposal is being reviewed by the township engineer. There is no timetable, and in essence, we're allowing the engineer to do his job, the job his staff is doing, to review the plans. When they are finished their review, that is when they will submit, their report to the developer as well as to us. At that point, meetings will be scheduled for things like planning, if zoning is necessary, possibly zoning. That would happen before it got to us. There is no date right now. Don't ask for a date as to when it's going to be before us. We don't know. And we're not setting a date and saying to our engineer, make sure you have it by this date. No. Make sure you do your job, and he knows how to do his job. He's been here quite a while in a different capacity, but Mr. Jones has been working here in Falls Township for quite a while, so we know him, he knows us, we work very well together, and he's in the job because we trust him, just as Mr. Clark and Ms. Gallagher in their jobs because we trust them, and the staff that we have here is in their jobs because we trust them. So that is the situation as it stands. And as Mr. Dent said, there really isn't anything that we can answer, but we will go through and allow 45 minutes of public comment if we reach that far, that long. And again, just going off of names that are here, I have two people, Barbara and John Statz. I don't know if they wish to speak or if they're just okay, that's fine. Okay. Don Markert.
Good evening. How you doing today? The Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, otherwise known as RECR, was enacted in 1976 and is the principal federal law in the United States governing disposal of solid waste and hazardous waste. In respect to Elcon and waste management and wheelabrator that exist in the township already, that when you look at the title in itself implies that you're going to recover, you're going to conserve. None of those facilities do that at this time. I find that kind of interesting. The interesting aspect of the resource, the RECRA, is primary purpose, protecting human health and the natural environment from potential hazards of waste disposal. energy conservation, and natural resources, reducing the amount of waste generated through source reduction and recycling, and ensuring that management of waste is environmentally sound. Environmentally sound. Not burning it, not disposing it into the atmosphere, not wafting it through Falls Township. The first environmental law was dealt with solid waste management was in 1965, and RECRA was an amendment to that act. Several things I want to talk about to deal with the legacy. I look at Falls Township. Been here for almost 64 years, a resident for 64 years, and I've seen the industries come and go. And I'm really concerned about the long-term legacy that we leave. If we look around the country, there are really significant examples of industrial legacies that were left that didn't provide any value back to the community. I'll just give you some examples. Love Canal, New York, if you're familiar with Love Canal. Times Beach, Missouri. Anybody know about Times Beach, Missouri? Dioxin contamination, disposal of contaminated oil to keep the dust down on the roadways. Pitcher, Oklahoma, a mining town that ended up having lead contamination and zinc contamination and mine water contamination such that they had to leave the city. They had to leave the town. Centralia, PA, and if anybody knows about that, it's a mine fire. It's been going on for the last 30 years. Interesting story. I want to talk about corporate accountability. I think it's interesting that when you look at the responsibility of people to manage their permits and comply with their permits, that there are many of excursions, and you find out that corporate accountability is really a kind of a lax concept in the respect that, look, if I have to pay a fine, that fine is part of doing business. I roll that into my cost of doing business and don't really care with compliance. We saw recently 2 published articles in the Bucks County Courier-Times dealing with Waste Management's failure to control odors off of their site. That's not a new manifestation. That's been going on since the landfill started. We experienced that here in Falls Township many, many times, and me as a citizen of Falls Township never knew it was an excursion from the permits that they were required to keep those vapors and also the particulates coming off and the trash being blown off and the other things that are associated with the landfill. An interesting one that I just remembered was the fact that we ended up with this seagull population in Falls Township that craps virtually on everything. That deposits its excrement all over everything in the township. We have a commercial property on Route 13 that's put in all these systems to try to keep the birds away, but if you park there, you're really liable to get your car cleaned with bird dung. Very disturbing. It's a health hazard in addition to being a very significant inconvenience. I had a flock fly over my house yesterday. Just extraordinarily disturbing to see that. Not natural populations to Falls Township. I met one time years and years ago with a chief operating officer of the company I used to work for in Bristol, and we were talking about the acquisition of a company, and there were some significant environmental liabilities that were incurred as a result of that acquisition that they never really discovered during their due diligence process. And when I asked them about the cost of that, not only the fines associated, which were in excess of $30 million, but also the fact that the cost of remediation was going to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars range. And what did he say to me, do you think? So that's the cost of doing business. We'll roll that into the goodwill of the acquisition of the company. That's an extraordinary statement to make, really. But that sets the stage for corporate accountability. You know, if fines are the normal course of business, then I'm going to pay fines instead of dealing with managing my operation within the context of the permits that I operate under. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Parker. Robert Seufert.
Good evening. I'm a rookie to this, and I didn't know about the 5-minute limit, so I will be very courteous, and when I hear the whistle.
Sorry, make sure you use the microphone, Mr.
Yeah. So I'll be very respectful when the whistle goes off. I just want to give you a quick background. My name is Bob Seufert. If any of you have driven along Old South Olds Boulevard beyond Dion Square heading towards Penn School, you'll notice a sign on the left that says art classes. It has a phone number on it. That's me and that's my wife. We have been here for 26 years. 26 years ago, we were looking for property to not only live in, but also to have what we call home occupation, and Falls Township was very accommodating. I have to tell you, in these 26 years, we've been very happy here. We've had our children educated in the Pennsbury School District. We've had a very successful run with our business. We had the business in Langhorne prior to that. But like so many of the people here tonight, I am very concerned about the Elcon issue. And we can talk about permits, and we can talk about a lot of different things that are in the normal course of business and government. But as the gentleman said earlier, there's a human element to this and a quality of life element that doesn't come with those types of things. Many of us remember Bhopal, India, as the gentleman mentioned, Love Canal. I can probably rattle off some other ones with my cheat sheet here. Flint, Michigan, we know what's happened there, the accident that was made there. Chernobyl. Okay, I'm sure other people here can rattle off other things of maybe greater or lesser degrees. I am concerned. I'm very, very concerned. I'm 71 years old. I'd like to live to be 81. I'd love to know that what's going to happen here will not happen. I'm very opposed to the Elcon situation. I was at the meeting 2 years ago. I don't know if anyone was there at the Sheraton. Anybody? We listened patiently to the Elcon proposal, to the type of system that was going to be used, and I think there were a few people who might maybe threw in their 2 cents, kind of disrespectful. But I am going to tell you that those people that were at that meeting, with the exception of the construction workers who would actually build the plant, were firmly opposed to Elcon. And our greatest detriment in this country is apathy. And in real terms, it would be nice. We have almost a full participation here. I mean, there are only a few empty seats. I'm hoping on March 5th, everyone know that date? March 5th. The Department of Environmental Protection is holding a meeting at the Sheraton from 6 to 9 o'clock. So hopefully we'll all attend and we'll all speak out. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Carol Kelly Adams.
Good evening. I just wanted to present to you that I am against Elcon. I've grown up in Fairless Hills all my life. I've been here all my life. And it's very disturbing to me that we want to bring hazardous waste in our community near a landfill. The air quality is not that good here. We have orange days in the summer. There's a lot of children who have asthma. And I'm concerned that it's going to further deplete our health here. And I know that Elcon in Israel is in the desert. It's not near a water supply. There's a creek that runs on the property that runs into the Delaware River. And if there was a spill or were a spill, it could, get in our water supply. And not just Falls Township. There's several municipalities that depend on the water from the Delaware River. We've had a water issue in Lower Makefield where people had to go and get water off a water truck. Couldn't you imagine if we had to get water for about 15 different municipalities? That would be a disaster in itself. I really feel that we can put something else on that property that would employ more than 350 people, as they had spoken before, and something that would be more beneficial to the township. I'm asking for all of you to consider what I have to say, and hopefully you'll make a good decision that benefits the majority of the township and not just a few people. We have to take people into consideration that live here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is it Joan, is it Graves? Is that right? Okay.
Good evening. This evening, I'm just going to speak to the humanitarian aspect of this. As the gentleman previously said, I'm not going to speak to any of the numbers or the jobs or, what the long-term aspects of this is. But online, if everybody goes online, you're going to see that there's an org chart online. Falls Township has it online. And the org chart, I was going to hand out tonight, but I know you're all aware of it, but it's a reminder that we, the people, are the township, and we are at the pinnacle of everything. So at the top of that org chart, it says Falls Township citizens or residents or whatever. And I, among other citizens or residents in this township, as well as numerous townships here in PA and in our sister state, have already advised that we do not want this toxic waste facility in our backyard. Yes, the NIMBYs are back. I'm appalled. The NIMBYs are not in my backyard, by the way. I'm appalled that you would even consider bringing this facility into Falls. And since I can't ask any questions, I don't know, maybe I can send you an email or something. My main question is, what are the benefits to Falls Township? And maybe you could advise at some point in time why a plan is being reviewed that should be rejected immediately, in my point of view. A few meager jobs for a finite amount of time is what is going to bring into the township. Then once built, we are left with the toxic air, waste, etc. And Elcon's track record speaks for itself. In reviewing the documentation that advises what will be impacted, I know that there are many elementary, high schools in close proximity, and this is my concern. Specifically, I'm concerned with the elementary school on Tyburn Road, Bucks County Montessori Charter School. This school is comprised of 193 students in grades kindergarten to 6th grade, ranging from ages 6 to 12. Historically, Elcon has stated that the northern route to the facility, I'm pretty sure it will be from 295 South out of New Jersey, and then it will come, I think, over the Scudder's Fall Bridge, up 13, or onto 95, then up 13, and then to the Tyburn exit. Now, adjacent to that Tyburn exit is this school of 193 little people. That's what's been stated. But we all know that companies, individuals twist the truth to sell their product. What happens when they change the route and their vehicles utilize the Route 1 bridge, as Waste Management does now, to Route 13, exiting at Tyburn Road, I believe that's east. I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up again. That will bring those vehicles within hundreds of yards, not a mile, not a half a mile, not a quarter of a mile, yards of that elementary school. When a spill of liquid toxic waste occurs, what about the safety of those children? What are we going to do in this township? God forbid something like that happens. And, excuse me, I didn't finish. What about the safety of those children who are from surrounding townships? These are not children from Falls. These are children from Ben Salem, from the Neshaminy School District, from Pennsbury. They're from the surrounding areas. So, as the gentleman before me said, Elcon will be holding a meeting on March 5th. My question to you was going to be, who from the board will be attending the meeting? But, and I don't remember before when we had the meeting 3 years ago, I think it was, whether there was anyone from the board there. But, oh, okay. We, the citizens, as well as our counterparts, want no part of it. The Township of Falls has been dumped upon long enough, pun intended. It's time for the supervisors to do their due diligence and protect the health and welfare of our township, send a clear message to this company, and reject their plan now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, those are all the residents we had sign in. A lot of people signed in on the resident sheet, but not all of them are residents. Are there any of the residents that wish to speak? Yes, go ahead. Just state your name, that's all, when you get up to the microphone.
Hi, you guys. I'm Shivani Patel, and I'm a senior at Pennsbury High School. And I just want to say this. So, all my life as a student, many adults have told me that they're going to do everything they can to protect my future. They said they'll do whatever it takes to ensure that my future is promising, that they will do everything it takes to not screw up what's in hold for me. Well, trust me when I say this. The whole thing right here, Elcon, this is not protecting my future. Elcon has never operated on a toxic waste facility at the large scope that they proposed to the DEP. If there's an accident, that's our drinking water being jeopardized right there. All those emissions being released, that's my air right there. And the past generations have already screwed up a lot and left a lot of messes for my generation to clean. And I don't know if you guys know, but when I was researching for my English editorial or writing about Elcon, I came across the American Lung Association, and they have said that Bucks County as a whole has the second worst air quality in all of Pennsylvania. So this will just be adding to that. And the decision being made right now will affect us and our kids and their kids. I'm going to stand up wherever I can, because this is our world, our responsibility, our future. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Any other residents wish to speak? No? Okay, we'll move on with the non-residents then. And I'm just going in order of how people sign. Kathy Woods?
Privileges with him.
No? Okay. All right. We got Christy Mineta?
Forgive me as I read off my phone. Good evening. Thank you for opening up your comment section to us so that we could speak during the meeting. I'm Christy Mineta, and I'm not actually a resident of Falls Township, but I do reside close to Doylestown. I am a realtor in Bucks County that services all of Bucks County, and I just want you to know that the proposal that Elcon is making to build this hazardous waste storage and processing facility has farther-reaching ramifications just than here in Falls Township. There are concerns that bleed into all parts of the county, and they range from safety concerns, health concerns, and property value concerns. We want Bucks County to remain and become more beautiful over the next several years, a place where we can raise families, a place where we can buy and sell homes, knowing that our property values are rising and not declining. We want to live as healthy residents for years to come. Thanks for your time.
Sure, thank you. Kim Rock?
Hi. I'm also obviously not a resident. I live in Lower Makefield. I'm a realtor. I'm with Keller Williams in Langhorne, so I do a huge chunk of my business in and around Falls Township. So I kind of just wanted to, mention a couple things that I was thinking, both as a realtor dealing in Falls Township and also as a parent of children in Pennsbury School District. So I went to the last Elcon meeting, and I learned a lot of things that really scared the crap out of me. And I realize you guys can't comment on it and you're still taking everything in, so I'm just hoping that, kind of our opinions will matter when you do make that final decision. So my biggest concerns are Bucks County already has the worst air quality in the state of Pennsylvania, and that's from the American Lung Association website that data came from. So that's kind of scary in and of itself, because most of the areas that have poor air quality or major cities, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, things like that. We're a suburban farmland community. How do we have such horrible air quality? We've got the Trenton Airport that's contributing. We've got waste management. We already have these horrible things. So to add an additional horrible thing just kind of seems a little crazy, especially since I don't really know what it's going to provide us with. They said like 100 jobs, 200 jobs, something like that, not even anything significant. And then I think it bumped down to like 50 jobs after the initial phase, took place. So it's not even anything that's going to help the community that much. I live in Lower Makefield, and we had that water issue in the fall. And that was fun, going to a tanker in a parking lot of a fire company and filling water for, our children to drink and brush their teeth with, and being scared that if, my 3-year-old opens her mouth in the bathtub and swallows the water, well, what's the problem? So I just think of, what happens if Elcon has some kind of spill, and then, now we've got an even wider spread amount of impact, and, how many people are lining up now to buy water bottles and fill tankers and jugs and everything. And then secondly, I just had kind of a little anecdotal story of clients of mine. So when I went to the last Elcon meeting, they were giving out pins, and I put a pin on my jacket, and I went home and I kind of forgot the pin was on my jacket. And the next day I was showing houses, consequently in Falls Township in Fairless Hills. And my client said, "Oh, what is that Elcon thing? You're wearing this pin. I've heard about it." And I told them everything I had learned at the meeting the night before. And they were definitely concerned. I could tell they were kind of like, "Oh, okay, we didn't know about this, and we're buying our first house." So they actually called me a week later, and they said, "You know what, we've decided to move our search to Montgomery County. We did a lot of research. We went home after we met with you, and we just don't want to raise a family if, that something like that of that magnitude is coming to town." So, it's definitely going to impact property values, and that's another thing to consider. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Lindsay Magnuson.
Hi. I'm not a realtor. I'm just a mom. But I am a mom who's concerned, and never would I dream that I would be up here. I've been out of the workforce for a very long time, since my son's been born. But I am here tonight because I've been following Elcon for a few years now, and truly never thought that we would get to this point where it would be as far along as it had. Because in my heart of hearts, I believe that there is no amount of money in this world that could possibly hurt or potentially jeopardize the lives of our children in this community. I do live in Yardley, however, I know that it will impact all of our lives, our future. We as parents always try to protect our children from eating organic foods and doing things like that. But this right here feels a little out of our control. And all I can say is that I beg of all of you to just take a look around at the children, and truly all the children in this area, and make that decision, because in my heart I believe that you would not do that for them to live in a world that is so close to a hazardous waste plant that's only other operation is in Israel. So that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Constantina, is it Lambrin? Is that right?
Hi, good evening. Thank you for your time. Before I begin, I just want to remind everyone here that the seats that you hold are of great respect and great responsibility, and that you were elected by the community that you see before you, the community that you pass by every day. I know that you have a hard decision to make, and I'm sure that you're trying to please a lot of people. You might even agree with us, and you can't speak your opinion because of the position of power that you hold. I understand, but I'm asking each of you, just like these citizens and constituents behind you, to consider your family, consider your friends, your mother, your father, your children, your siblings, because this is their community too. There's a couple points that I want to touch on. We've touched on humanity. We've touched on property value. Another big piece that we need to consider is what type of research did they do when they picked our community? There's studies suggesting that low income or middle class areas are subject on a greater scale to toxic waste plants. Do you think coincidentally that they didn't look at us, that they didn't look at our demographic right now, our school systems, our drug rates, our heroin issues, that they didn't pinpoint and say, you know what, they're too busy taking care of everything else. They're just gonna lie down. And you know what, we can put this in here. It's a great port of entry. It's got a lot of local access, and the citizens, they're not gonna show up, they're not gonna stand up. And I refuse to believe that. And I respect each of you, and I refuse to think that you're gonna let that happen. I don't think that you are. I really don't. I know you have to do what you have to do. I know that it has to get to zoning. I know that you can't answer this question, but my point becomes, how many tax dollars are we gonna waste with the reviews and with the zoning before it gets to the point where you say, enough is enough. We're gonna stop this. The answer is finally no. One other thing, my husband brought it up, and my mother with me tonight. Really important points regarding our air quality already. I know that it's been mentioned, but have you ever smelled our town on a rainy day? Right? You know the smell, right, from the landfill. How about the fact that you have to wash your car twice as much? You have to manually, I hand wash my house. I don't know if you do, but I do every single year. And that's because of the landfill. Now we're gonna add on to it and perpetuate this terrible air quality. Let me leave you with this. Again, it's no coincidence that they picked us. I think we can all agree upon that. And just watch our property value lower. Because guess what? In my little family alone, we have no children. We own 8 houses. We pay taxes on 8 houses in these townships. And we're happy to do it because we're so proud to be part of this community. I was born and raised here. My mother's been here in our family for over 60 years. And it's one of the biggest honors. I would never want to leave this place. I would never want to move. It breaks my heart to think of it. But if we build a toxic waste plant here, many of us are going to be forced to face that decision. Where do we go? And you know what? Our property value, down. All of it. Everybody that has property value, property in this area, watch it go down, because it will, drastically. Thank you for your time, thank you for your consideration, and thank you for your service.
Sharon Furlong?
Good evening. Thanks again. I wanted to thank you also for making your clarifying comments. It's actually really important that we understand the inner processes of what you guys have to go through. And I, for one, I happen to know, but I also appreciated that you let the rest of us know. In my continuing education on Tuesday nights, this is on the Green Amendment, and I'll be handing these comments in. Pennsylvania is only one of 2 states in our entire nation that has a constitutional amendment regarding the rights of citizens to a healthy environment, so allow me to quote it here. Article 1, Section 27 of the Pennsylvania Constitution provides as follows, quote, "The people have a right to clean air, pure water, and to the preservation of the natural, scenic, historic, and aesthetic values of the environment. Pennsylvania's public natural resources are the common property of all the people, including generations yet to come. As trustees of these resources, the Commonwealth shall conserve and maintain them for the benefit of all the people." End of quote. Very lovely words indeed, but let's be honest. It has not been adhered to until recently, yet it's been on the books since 1971. It wasn't until 2013, around 44 years since it had been adopted by our state government, that a court case was heard by the state Supreme Court that finally revived the power of this amendment and put teeth in it by a ruling in a majority opinion authored by Chief Justice Ronald Castile that not only was this Constitution Amendment powerful and significant, but that it could be used to guarantee all citizens, both now and in the future, access to legal protection of the indefeasible right to a clean environment. That word, indefeasible, means that these rights cannot be overturned, overruled, or lost. The second aspect of the significance of this ruling by the Castile Court was that these rights to a clean and healthy environment really are not granted through the Constitution, a document made by people, but are rights that are granted to us by nature herself the day of our birth, and so are inalienable. That word, inalienable, means in legal terms that these rights cannot be taken from or given away by government or even the possessor of such a right, which is, in this case, us, the citizens. This ruling went on to outline that since the amendment expressly names future generations, therefore by law our Commonwealth is to be held to a higher obligation of protection. This in and of itself is significant, as the standards of protection must apply to all people in the Commonwealth, both living now and those yet to be born, and also underlines the commandment that the holding of these rights at the highest levels of protection must be, since the future has to be taken into consideration during now our present day. In June of 2017, another ruling by the state Supreme Court, Judge Christine Donahue, writing the opinion, went further and stated that the Commonwealth is a trustee, and that word, trustee, also commands this higher level of active protection in all situations. In addition, this second ruling went on to state that in the light of this trustee obligation, the state's natural resources cannot be treated sheerly as a commodity or a property. It is incumbent on the state, therefore, to act as the agent in preserving the environment of Pennsylvania in all ways, for now and for the sake of the future citizenry. It opens up a clear and legal pathway for environmentally degrading projects or even other laws to be challenged on now constitutional grounds. Finally, these rulings ended up emphasizing both the historic and the aesthetic values, in addition to clean air, clean water, and a healthy environment. Safeguarding the historic is fairly self-explanatory, but the word aesthetic, an absolutely visionary addition to the amendment back in 1971, is the tying in of science well in advance of the last several decades, where the intersection of the human mental and spiritual condition with the environment, beyond the sheerly public health issues, has become a fruitful area of academic study. Indeed, study after study has indicated a profound interrelationship between us and our environment in terms of education and early childhood development, physical, mental health, and welfare, along with a life of well-being and productivity. Thank you for one more minute. So what does this mean for us here tonight and in the future? It means that a project such as Elcon, a project that cannot guarantee its 100% containment, built near a major river and a feeder creek into that river, in an area surrounded by millions of people and already suffering befouled air, built near a historically and ecologically significant type of ecosystem, found in only one other place in the county, can and should be rejected on the basis that it clearly violates both the law and the spirit of the Pennsylvania Constitution. Thank you.
Adrian Morgado.
Hello, good evening. I'm going to continue. I'm going to give you a book, Mr. Harvey, if that's all right with you, from one educator to another. So it took 40 years for a case to invoke what had already been on the book since 1971. And we're very fortunate to have Maya von Rossum write a book on the Green Amendment. And I want to give that to you, this to you. She autographed it for you too, okay? And find out just what's involved. There's marvelous history in here, and you'll feel that you'll want to be a water protector when you're finished reading this. May I bring it up to you?
Sure. Okay, thanks. Appreciate it. Mason, is it Patterson?
Hello, I'm a student from Pennsbury High School. I came here with Shivani. Hello and good evening to my fellow residents and non-residents of Falls Township. Back before organizations like the EPA and others related were established in order to help the environment and, for lack of a better word, clear the air, America's quality was horrendous. It was a time when pollution made many of our nation's rivers, streams, and lakes unsafe for fishing, swimming, and other water activities. Back then, some cities' air pollution was so thick that you often couldn't even see the city from far away. These days, the elderly and asthmatics were at risk of respiratory damage. Luckily, the country has made significant progress in helping the air quality and environment, which is why I'm here today. We must not go back. The Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection is considering allowing Elcon Recycling Services to construct a hazardous waste treatment facility in Falls Township next to the Wheelabrator Falls Waste Incinerator. Elcon's wastewater treatment plant sits half a mile from a creek that empties into the Delaware River and is 15 miles away from the water intake from the city of Philadelphia. Elcon has proposed to import 210,000 tons or 420 million pounds of chemical hazardous waste to their proposed plant in Falls. This means that over 1 million pounds per day of toxic waste will be burned and most likely will radiate to the surrounding air. Not to state the obvious, but it is an absolutely terrible location to treat such huge quantities of hazardous waste. If mistakes are made, which they well could be, who knows what could happen to the surrounding areas, especially with that abundance of waste. It is less than half a mile from the Delaware River, where Falls, LMT, Levittown, Tullytown, Newtown, where I'm from, Langhorne, and many other Bucks towns will be affected. We have made significant progress in treating our environment, and I say we must not go back to the days before the EPA. Rather, we must deny the construction of the facility and move forward. Thank you.
Barb Stokes. Stakes. Sorry. Looks like an O. Sorry, I apologize. I see the little tail now, doesn't it? Sorry about that. Right.
I'm from Penn Salem.
Okay, welcome.
This is from a letter to the editor. I'm better sitting behind a computer than I am in front of a whole group. But anyway, I'm here as a resident of Bucks County. Residents near and far in Bucks County have been fighting against Elcon contaminated wastewater treatment plant with every breath we can muster for about 4 years now. While Elcon's owners assure us that the chemically contaminated wastewater they treat will be evaporated within the confines of the building and not escape into the air we breathe, the process remains a mystery to many. The list of harmful chemicals is so long and the process so complex that only specialized chemists and scientists can really understand it. Even more concerning are the 20 tanker trucks a day from parts unknown that must travel through our local streets carrying this chemically contaminated water. Route 13, that the trucks will have to travel every day to their destination, is more a local thoroughfare than a highway. Hundreds, maybe thousands of motorists travel it daily, and houses sit directly on and downstream from the road. Just like pipelines, no matter how companies reassure us, there will be accidents. Picture water gushing from a tanker that will flow into our sewer drains, down to the water table, and eventually into the Delaware River, a waterway that millions of people rely on its main source of drinking water. Will truck drivers be responsible as the first responders? If in an accident, how does that happen if a driver's hurt or unconscious? How can he even be expected to call for help? And even if alert, how does one man mop up a tanker of fluid? More questions remain. Will these trucks be owned and operated by Elcon or by outside contractors? If not owned and operated by Elcon, Elcon will be free from liability for cleanup and for payment of cleanup of spills. Who then does payment fall on? The state, the county, residents? In the long run, if not the company, it will land on taxpayers, and very probably this false township. With all of this potential for irreversible catastrophe, what are the real long-term gains for Levittown, Tullytown residents and residents of the county? Statistics cited by Sharon Furlong in her letter to the editor of the Bucks County Courier-Times on August 5, 2018, disputes the argument that projects such as Elcon's create valuable long-term jobs. Once the building is completed, what long-term jobs are actually left? A few to watch over the gauges, knobs, and switches on its building technology, and of course, great paying jobs for guards, groundskeepers, and janitors. During the industrial age, sewage and carcinogens created by manufacturing companies along the Delaware River were permitted to flow into its waters. In the 70s and 80s, the government created superfunds in order to clean up polluted areas in the country. The Delaware River was so contaminated it could not be fished. Dead fish washed up on its shores, and frogs and other water creatures were found dead and deformed. Until the early 2000s, the money came from the companies. Now it's mostly from taxpayers. The EPA was created to protect people from the harmful effects caused by industries. These days, the opposite is more the case. In fact, the EPA is considering reducing its standards on illness-causing and life-threatening contaminants. 1,343 Superfund cleanup sites still remain. I'm almost done. Still remain across the country. Pennsylvania has 94. Please refer to the website, and I have a letter for each of you. The Elcon plant and its hazardous potential is a perfect recipe for a Superfund of the future, threatening pollution of the Delaware River and one of our most precious sources for life, water. Our little corner of the world, Bucks County, PA, is under assault from all sides. Elcon's plant is just one more of them. When the time comes for you to decide, I hope you will give serious consideration to all of these concerns. Ask yourselves, does Elcon's plant, built on the banks of the Delaware River, requiring 20 tanker trucks a day carrying chemically contaminated wastewater to travel through Levittown, Tullytown, and other neighborhoods, having the potential for irreversible spills while creating a minuscule number of long-term jobs, really worth it? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Oh my God.
Okay, thank you.
And this is a brochure that you might want to make.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. We've reached the 45-minute maximum for public comment. We thank people who spoke. I know we didn't get to everybody, but we obviously do have other township business to attend to, and so we're going to move on with our agenda. Obviously, people are welcome to stay and see what else is going on, but those who don't wish to stay are obviously free to leave if they want to. Item number 2 on our agenda is Milex Properties, LLC, preliminary land development. This is 300 West Trenton Avenue. Mr. Gray.
Yes, the applicant's proposed project consists of construction of a 4,800 square foot office building with garage spaces and associated parking, utilities, and stormwater management. Representing the applicant tonight is Ms. Kristen Holmes.
This one goes this way.
Yeah, if you get, face something that way, that's fine.
Now you're trapped.
Good evening. Thank you.
Good evening.
I'm here on behalf of. Should I wait?
Sorry. Ladies and gentlemen.
I'll be happy to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, just thank you. Go ahead, Mrs. Holmes.
Sure. So I'm here on behalf of Milex Properties, LLC. The application before you is for a property at 300 West Trenton Ave. There's currently an existing office building with parking spaces on there. The applicant is proposing to build a second office building of 4,800 square feet on the property, which would total then 37 parking spaces. We've been going back and forth with the applicant's consultants through the land development process, and we are here tonight for preliminary approval. The location of the property is within the neighborhood commercial district, and we are requesting a series of waivers from the subdivision and land development ordinance for the approval of this application, if you were so to approve. The section 191-31A, we're requesting a waiver from this section of the ordinance that requires widening of the right-of-way, cartway, and providing curb and sidewalk along the frontage of West Trenton Avenue. A lot of that does exist, so it would really be in regards to the widening of the right-of-way and the cartway. And it is mostly developed along the frontage there with the existing facilities and driveway. We're requesting a waiver from Section 36D that requires all driveways to have curbs. Again, a large portion of this development is already developed. There are no curbs, so we're looking to match the existing conditions. We're requesting a waiver that requires no less than 15 feet of open space between the curb line of any uncovered parking area and the outside wall of a building. This is specifically in regards to a loading striped area that is adjacent to the proposed building. We're requesting a waiver that requires curbed raised planting beds for off-street parking facilities. This is similar to a previous request, which I mentioned. The existing parking facilities are not curbed, so we're looking to match existing conditions. We would certainly be compliant in regards to getting erosion control approval, which we've actually received recently from the Bucks County Conservation District. We would agree to all of the engineers' review comments that would be a will comply to satisfy any remaining comments that exist. And then one last waiver is actually a partial waiver from section 191-78C2, which is requiring all existing features be shown within 200 feet of the property.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, board comments and questions at this time from Ms. Holmes. Mr. Galloway.
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Boraski.
Just regarding the review letter?
Or anything?
Yeah. I'll wait.
Okay. Mr. Dents?
I do not.
Mr. Rocco?
There was one comment from the, about a handicap parking spot, additional one.
Yes, so we had some comments from the Planning Commission when we appeared before them, and we did revise the plan to address those. So we were able to revise, there are existing handicap spaces along the front of the existing building, but we were able to provide a new handicap space near the new building.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, that was one of the things I had. I'm assuming you saw the fire marshal's letter from November 20th, 2018?
Yes.
Okay.
That would all be a will comply.
Okay. All right. Anything?
No, I'm good because I see that there.
Okay. All right. Okay. Mr. Jones, anything from you?
No comments.
Okay. Is there any public comment regarding this project? Okay. So this is just preliminary land development at this time?
That is the case, yes.
All right, so this would be resolution 19-6. 6. All right, is there a motion to grant preliminary land development for Milex Properties LLC, 300 West Trenton Avenue?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. Appreciate your patience. All right, so item number 3 is Newport Village Apartments waiver of land development. This is 8590 New Falls Road. Mr. Gray?
Yes, the applicant's proposed improvements consist of the demolition of an existing pool, deck, and sidewalks, and the proposed construction of 1,982 square feet, accessory building, and associated sidewalks. Representing the applicant tonight is Miss Amanda Schneider.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Schneider. I'm with D.L. Howell & Associates, and we're the project engineer for this. I'm representing our applicant, the applicant, which is NV Partners LP and the Westover Companies. We're requesting approval for a waiver of land development for the Newport Village Apartments. It's an existing apartment complex, and we are proposing an approximately 2,000 square foot accessory building, which will be used as complex management and a fitness center for the existing residents. We are requesting a waiver for street trees, and we did receive a variance for a requirement for indoor recreation area. As part of the project, there's going to be the removal of the existing pool and surrounding sidewalks. We're proposing the building with sidewalk, ADA accessible parking spaces, stormwater management, and landscaping. And we've worked with Joe Jones, and we intend to fully comply with all the comments from his most recent letter. So are there any questions?
Okay.
Everything's a will comply?
Yes.
Is the pool operational now?
No.
Is that one of the reasons why they're filling it in? And
Yeah, and it's basically in the same area.
yeah.
For people at home, that just as a reference point, this is the apartment complex across from the Burger King, which is near Pennsbury High School. Mr. Galloway?
No, straightforward. Thank you.
Mr. Raskin, no? Yes.
No.
No, Mr. Rocco, no. I did see a letter from the Shade Tree Commission recommending replacing 13 trees that were removed with native deciduous trees and adding a row of evergreens as a buffer with the property behind.
I don't believe I saw that letter, but we do have a note on the plan saying, because we did talk with Joe Jones, that we are removing some trees, we're replacing trees, and if the township decides they want more trees to increase the buffer, we will do that.
Okay. Mr. Jones, you're aware of the Shade Tree Commission letter?
I am aware, Mr. Chairman, and we did speak with the applicant's engineer, and they did agree to provide any necessary landscaping that would be required. It's kind of hard to tell what trees are going to come down and what it's going to look like once they start removing them. So once we get a lay of the land, when initial trees are removed, then the applicants agreed to provide the required buffering.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any other comment? Anything from you, Mr. Jones?
No.
No? Okay. All right. Any public comment needed? Okay. That's all right. Well,
Just come up.
Ms. Humphreys, hold on. Yep, you have to come up here. Hold on for a second. I thought you were hanging around because you liked us. Is there a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Go ahead, Ms. Humphrey. Now you can come up. You have to speak at the microphone. You used to know somebody. I think you know somebody who used to be on this board. You should understand how this works.
I sat at home. Hello, my name is Gail Humphrey. I'm a resident of Falls Township. I love trees, and I live there. So if you are taking trees away for the future, anytime in Falls Township as a resident, I would like equal number of trees to be put back. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
All
bye.
right. Thanks. Anybody else? Okay, is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? No? All right, so this would be a waiver of land development for Newport Village Apartments, 8590 New Falls Road, Resolution 19-7. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 4 is Corco Chemical Corporation, minor subdivision lot line change, Tyburn Road and Cedar Road. Mr. Gray.
Yes, the applicant's proposed improvements consist of a minor subdivision and a lot line change between two existing parcels. Representing the applicant tonight is Mr. John Koopman and Mr. Heath Dumack.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. My name is John Koopman. Heath Dumack, you know. Jim Shepard from Corco is also here. He's the property owner that's involved in what is really a proposed minor subdivision under your ordinance. It is actually a lot line change, but under your ordinance, that's also included in a minor subdivision under your ordinance. And what's involved in this case is a lot line change where a portion of the Corco property is being subdivided off and would be adjoined to the KPK development property, which currently adjoins the Corco property. Heath Dumack has a plan here, and Heath, if you just want to briefly review the plan and grab the microphone and explain what's being subdivided off. What is being subdivided off is an old sand and gravel quarry pit, and that's proposed to be subdivided off and added to the Corco development property, which is in the process of being reclaimed in accordance with the DEP permits. The remaining portion of the property, which is about 5 acres, will remain with Corco. There's not going to be any additional development involved in this project. The Corco existing facility is going to remain there, and that's essentially, I think, what the plan provides.
I think you just summarized it nicely. I don't even need to say anything.
If any of the board members has any questions about what's being proposed, we'd be glad to answer. If not, we can tell you that we will comply with the review letter from Mr. Jones, which was dated January 31st. Everything on there is a will comply. There are 3 waivers, all of which have been recommended by your planning commission. One is a waiver from sidewalks, and again, this is an industrial area. There's no sidewalks on either side of Cedar Lane, and our view is they're probably not appropriate now, and probably not in the future. Now, the other 2 waivers are from buffer plantings and street tree plantings. Again, there's no development being proposed at the current time. If and when any development occurs, and there is a southern portion of the property that is vacant that may be developed in the future for an expansion of the Corco site, if and when that property develops, and we would have to come back to you with a land development plan, and at that point, we can address those issues of buffer plantings and street tree plantings. We'll know where curb cuts are, and it'd make more sense in our view to do it at that time. And again, the Planning Commission recommended those 3 waivers.
Okay, so that's a lot.
That's the quick version of it.
That's the quick version, yes. Yeah, so quick, Mr. Dumack didn't get a chance to speak. It might be, yes. Comments or questions from Mr. Koopman or Mr. Dumack? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
No.
No.
I have none.
Okay. So in other words, this is basically a giant lake that's getting transferred, lot line is changed to merge it with, it's not lakes on either side, right? There is some solid ground around there somewhere, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It's going to be adjoined with and become part of the Pennsbury, what's called the Pennsbury Reclamation Site, which has frontage currently on Pennsbury, on Penn Valley Road.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
It will become part of that property, and eventually in the future may be reclaimed in accordance with the DEP permitting and eventually developed for its current HI use.
Okay, all right, okay. Mr. Jones, anything from you?
Nothing.
Okay, is there any public comment? See no hands. Okay, this would be Resolution 19-8, which is approving a final minor subdivision and lot line change for Corco Chemical. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate
And I have signed resolutions by Jim Shepard and Corco that I could provide to you.
Okay, item number 5 is consider proposal for geese management services at the Falls Township Community Park. Mr. Gray?
Oh, yeah. Yes, Brian Andrews has secured a quote from S&S Wildlife for the annual geese harassment program at the community park. This includes egg addling, a permit filing, and overall harassment program. Total cost will not exceed $27,225. Mr. Andrews is here to discuss this project further, and I believe Mr. Shadle is here as well.
That's correct. Okay, basically we're here again another year for this program. We've done this more comprehensive geese harassment program for the last 4 years. Been extremely successful. We've really reduced the amount of geese down at the park drastically. I recommend going forward with this program again this year. Over the course of the 4 years, I think we reduced our expenses 25% from when we started, which means the program is trending in the right direction, and I foresee that going that direction. This year was the first year we didn't have to do any night harassment, so and that's a good sign. Mr. Shadle's here for any questions about the program. It's basically what we've been doing down there, and it's something we need to maintain, and keep on top of.
Okay. All right, I know for board members, comments or questions for Mr. Andrews or Mr. Shadle, we interested in hearing Mr. Shadle's summary,
I'd like to hear
maybe?
exactly what we're going to be doing, yeah.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Shadle, maybe give us a rundown on how things worked last year. What was it most effective, I guess, maybe, and what we'll be doing this year. I'm sure it's much of the same thing, but it's always good to enlighten people as to what we're doing down there.
Sure. Good evening, gentlemen. Brian did a great job of summarizing it, but our costs have come down, which means we're spending less time on site. We still are challenged by birds unless some big thing happens to the goose population on the East Coast. There will always be a need for some level of management at the lake, but it is good to see it coming down, and we were not getting night pressure from the birds, which just means we have less resident activity on site. Right now, big challenges with a lot of flyover geese at just about every site on the East Coast. So if you go there on a given day right now, you might see a lot of geese. But we have geese migrating north from the south right now. That's all over the East Coast. But in terms of our resident population, when people start to use the park, which is coming soon through the fall, those birds, that number is going down. And last year most of the time when we had an influx of birds, it was under 100. It used to be around 200. So again, our activity has helped. And I will speak also with the dog folks as a second part of this. It's got nothing to do with me in terms of other than a working relationship, but that helps a tremendous amount as well.
All right, comments or questions for Mr. Shadle or Mr. Andrews?
Brian, do you know what we spent last year?
What was the amount, Rick? I think you have it right there.
The harassment was 14,868.
14,868.
Okay.
Which I think our first year, our high was like 27.
Yeah.
Because we were starting from scratch that year, so it's come down. And Rick was mentioning the border collie harassment. We were proposing that with the Geese Chaser to Southeast PA. They do a 10-week program in conjunction with Mr. Shadle. They work really well with him. It's a multifaceted effort. So, I think between the two of them, it's been real successful.
Good.
And that's a fixed cost from last year, too.
Awesome.
I have a question, it's, I guess related to you, Mr. Shadle, but not to our geese. But we have a new fishing pier that seems to be a favorite of birds that you see lined up on the railings. Do you have any ideas? Is that something you do as well?
I'm not an expert on gulls. But I told Brian that I will be attending a national event Thursday and Friday, a wildlife control technology seminar, and I've got many good friends in the industry that do deal with gulls, and I told him I was going to research that and see what I could find out. But I know harassment techniques are part of it. There are federal take permits available for things like that as well, but there's a number of different things, similar to geese, but different. You know, these are a little different bird, but I'll see what I can find out. I'm going to let Brian know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian, I know that going back to last year's meeting and throughout the year, some of the other board members, I know myself, we had concerns about the birds in Falsington.
Correct.
We've asked a few times or talked a few times about some of the suggestions Mr. Mariani had. Have we done anything?
We haven't done anything over in that area specifically. I know Mr. Gray and I had talked about that, but we didn't really pursue that any further. But we can look into that
I know that.
in Falsington.
Okay, sorry.
You know.
I was going to say, I was going to beat Mr. Mariani to the punch, and Mr. Boraski beat me to the punch, to beat Mr. Mariani to the punch. I know Mr. Mariani is getting ready. I can see him edging toward the edge. You know, he's getting to the edge of the seat. He's going to come up and talk about flight line.
It's his favorite meeting of the year.
Favorite topic.
I don't want to disappoint Mr. Dents.
Right.
And so is that sort of an option? I know, the difficulty with working in the pond in Falsington is it does go right up to people's backyards, so having the dogs run through is not an option.
Yeah, that was. We did reach out to to the Border Collie Company. I think that was a concern I expressed to Mr. Gray about that. I know Mr. Shadle had spoken with Mr. Gray about that. I mean, maybe he can lend a little more to their conversation on that, if you want to.
Yeah, the concern is flight line. Maybe the best thing to use around that pond. It is a smaller area. It does go right up against. A lot of people don't actually have back fences. They just their property just continues to the lake. Well, they think it does. It doesn't really. But they treat it like it does, which is fine. They maintain it, and it looks really nice. But is using something like flight line where you're going to have domestic animals, dogs and cats and things running around. Is that a concern? Obviously I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, I'll defer to Mr. Shadle on that one.
I mean, there was other options than just that, but I just like to see us, take a little more serious and use some ideas. Like, that's a good property for us to start with.
Yeah.
That product's safe to use. It's made to use around water. It's made to use around people, pets, what have you. So it's of no concern. The issue with using, that product is a good product. I've said before. It's got its niche locations. It may have efficacy over there, but always remember that it doesn't work on water.
Right.
And the geese can be on the water, and they can still defecate on the ground, and they can still wander onto areas that aren't treated, because they learn to not eat it because it has a visual cue. It reflects light a different way. So they eat it, they don't like it, they stop eating it, but it doesn't mean they can't eat somewhere else that doesn't have a visual cue that's just the next yard over.
Right.
So you could actually move birds into a worse area than you have. So many times when you use products like flight control, they need still be coupled with other efforts. It's not a one tool does it all anywhere, and same with that product. And if you talk to a rep from Flight Control, is the name of the product, they'll tell you the same thing. This isn't a silver bullet. You got to do other things with it.
Right.
And to add to that, I believe we cut the grass over there. We maintain that area. And anytime, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Shadle, when you cut it, you have to reapply it. And that could be quite often.
It can be, and that was one of the concerns. I mean, obviously, it's a much smaller area than obviously the Township Park.
Sure.
But I agree with Mr. Boraski. Something I was going to bring up as well. It's definitely something we should be getting a bit more aggressive with and seeing what we can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
sure.
Galloway, anything from you?
None, thank you.
Okay. All right. Is there any public comment? Motion to open public comment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Who gave him that coat poker?
Oh, boy. Mr. Rocco, would you take one of these and pass them down, please?
You bet. Can you pull that mic down a little bit when you get back?
You have a pretty strong program here tonight, so I'm only going to need about 2 minutes. I'll make you happy. Now, I've given the board photographs of our delicate feathered friends introducing themselves to some park visitors, and wrote a little ode thinking about this night. Rambling along the marshes on the banks of falls, high in the sky, I heard the traveled geese. Honk, honk, you like that one? On stormy wings, they cleave the upper air. The geese are flying slice south today. They stop to say hello. We have a large lake here where they love to stop and go. They zoom straight from the north. They rest here for a while. They leave some evidence that they were here today. Just watch your step. It'll soon go away. Now, over the years, and we've been doing this over the years, this board has tried to manage the geese, which I consider to be a nuisance. You don't manage a nuisance, you get rid of it. And I have constantly recommended the most effective products to eliminate the geese. Flight control rejects it, fog control, the solar lights, and the township has never enjoyed any one product or even employed any of these products, even for a trial.
What was the other one you just said?
The solar lights?
That was the last one we talked about last year. I remember
Yeah,
that.
we did talk about that. I like that one. So finally, I'm again proposing the most effective and permanent solution to geese control.
Piero, leave the room.
He's growing a beard. I hope you don't cut off his ear and start painting. I'm proposing the most effective and permanent solution to geese control. It's called a windmill. It has a proven record of success because it slices and it dices. So now this board has available every proven product to eliminate geese. And I'm telling you again this year, do it. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Mariani.
Let's see if we can get rid of the geese instead of manage them.
We're doing our best. We're doing our best. Thank you very much. Any other public comment? Okay, is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Yeah, I had a legal question for Mr. Clark, but I guess he's.
Mr. Harvey, I would suggest that if the board is inclined to approve the proposal tonight, that it should be subject to the execution of an indemnity agreement with the township.
Certainly. Okay. The question I had, I did see total cost not to exceed $27,225. We spent, would you say, roughly $14,000 last year? Okay. We're just erring on the side of caution, going.
That was a little under 15. That doesn't include the egg addling, right?
Oh, okay. All right. I
So it'd be a
misunderstood.
little
All right.
more.
I was wondering. Okay. I was kind of.
The egg addling and permitting, which is a set cost of $52.25.
Okay.
How much?
$52.25, $5,225.
So it's about 20. Okay.
That's been for several years.
Pretty consistent.
Yeah, that hasn't
Okay.
moved.
Okay. And this will be, again, not to exceed. So we'll do, since we have two different companies, you're asking for two different motions, one for the 1990 for geese chasers as well?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so the board will entertain a motion at this time. We'll need two separate motions if we're going to do both of these programs, since we have two separate companies doing it.
I'll make it, go ahead.
Here you go.
I'll make the motion for Mr. Shadle's company. That's the $27,225?
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed.
Motion made? Oh.
And that would be subject to the indemnity agreement executed with the township.
Yes. That's my motion.
So amended.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Poll the board, please. Mrs. Poll?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Bransky?
No.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay. And a second motion for the 1990 for geese chasers?
I'll make the motion or 1990 for geese chasers for border collie harassment.
Subject to indemnification approved by the solicitor.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Boraski?
No.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna do a little bit of rearranging of our agenda. We're doing number 6, and then we're gonna skip to number 8. Both of those are involving our finance director, Mrs. Rukoff, who's here. That way she can do sort of 2 back-to-back, and then she can be on her merry way. And then we'll go back to, we'll do number 7 after that, okay? So item number 6 is consider proposal for purchase of finance software. Mr. Gray?
Yes, Betsy Rukoff has secured a quote from Tyler Technologies for a new software, finance software. This would replace an IBM AS400 platform that has been used since the 1990s. Ms. Rukoff has reviewed several vendors' offerings and has determined Tyler Technologies would be the best fit. This purchase has been included in the 2019 budget and is listed on Sourcewell. Sourcewell is similar to the CoStar's purchasing program. This dollar amount of $126,118 is asked for approval of the project in that dollar amount. Ms. Rukoff and Mr. Markey are here for any questions you may have.
Okay,
Okay. Good evening.
evening. You can pull that down.
Mr. Mariani's a tough act to follow.
Yeah.
Yes, tonight I'm here to ask you to consider approval of the purchase of new finance software. As Mr. Gray said, our current system has been in place since 1991. That's pretty unheard of for software. We've replaced the server once, but even that was 10 years ago. So we reviewed various vendors' offerings, and we found that Tyler Technologies has a system that will fit our needs now and into the future. It has been provided for in the budget. It can be purchased through the Sourcewell program, which is very similar to CoStar's. And we really need to replace our outdated system. It's got an awful lot of drawbacks, and it doesn't have the reporting flexibility that we now need and have needed. So I know you're sad, Mr. Gray. So if you have any questions, Matt's here to answer the technical questions for you.
Okay, thank you. It's a shame, you took over, it seemed the previous finance director who was here for a long time should have updated it, but I guess he wasn't really.
Really should have, but
Yeah.
just didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Galloway?
No questions, thank you.
Fortunately, Matt, I have no technical questions for you.
No technical questions.
Mr. Rocco?
So does Tyler provide the software, or they're just implementing someone else's software?
They provide the hosting and the software. Everything
It's
is
their software.
turnkey, yes.
Okay, which is why we're only looking at one quote here.
Yes.
Okay. No, I agree. I mean, it's time. I'm sure it's time.
Yes.
Well over time, yeah.
Past time, yeah.
Yeah.
Past time. Okay, yeah, I don't have any comments or questions. Obviously, it's well, overdue. Any public comment? See none. Okay, is there a motion then to authorize the purchase or approve the purchase of Tyler Technologies in Code 10 and ExecuTime software packages at the cost of $126,118 plus travel expenses?
So moved.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Boraski?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay. And then skipping to number 8, consider proposal from FX Brown for Act 101 recycling grant. Okay. Yeah, Mr. Rukoff, you can take this one.
Okay. FX Brown has provided a proposal for the Act 101 recycling report for 2018. They have quoted us a price of $4,800 for that service. They gather all the information from the various businesses throughout the township on their recycling data and compile the report for us. It brings in revenue ranging from $50,000 to over $100,000 every year for the recycling grant based on the tonnages. So it's well worth the cost of the proposal to have them gather the information.
Okay, and we've used FX Brown for a long time.
Almost 20 years.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know they've been here as long as I've been here. So the price is relatively stable.
Last year was 4,000. It was 4,000 for a couple years, maybe 10 years ago. It was $3,000. So there has been a steady increase, but it's still not bad compared to the dollar amount we'll get back for the grant.
Okay. All right, thank you. Comments or questions for either Mr. Gray or Mrs. Rukoff?
No, routine.
No? Any public comment? See none? Okay, is there a motion then to approve the contract for FX Brown for the recycling grant in the amount of $4,800?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Boraski?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, back to number 7 now on our agenda. Consider a proposal for purchase of GIS software. Mr. Gray.
Yes, Mr. Markey has prepared a memo regarding the purchase of an Esri GIS system purchase for ArcSoft software. Mr. Markey, can you further explain this?
Yes, GIS systems are pretty commonplace now. They allow for the mapping of data such as parcel data, roads, infrastructure, water and sewer, pretty much encompass every element of a township. And they allow us to put that data into a system that allows us to track trends, keep updates, be in the field in real time and plot information. And it would give us an entry into that. Bucks County has a very extensive program with GIS for years. Just a matter of if you went to their system and looked at new projects, you would see proposed buildings of the Outback Steakhouse already put on their system at the county level. This program here would give us a foot in that door and allow us to start developing programs in-house that could take advantage of that. FEMA maps, anything from the county, anything from the state, we'd have direct access to and compatibility with at Falls Township.
Okay. All right. Comments or questions?
None.
No?
Yeah, Matt, it looks like there's 9 licenses for creators.
Yes.
Who are they?
The creators were, so myself, code enforcement, fire marshal, township engineer, a water and sewer license, and a couple of licenses for people that would be in the field. Since we don't have this program in place now, that was pretty much a catch-all, and that can be changed as we develop it. So we develop a program such as MS4 inspections, and we decide to use certain personnel, we can change the license at that point to give them maybe a field inspection. But this was just a catch-all to make sure it's covered all the bases.
Yeah, that would be my ask, is just going forward, we keep an eye on this and.
Absolutely, and
Yeah, cool.
they also, different levels of users can do different things as well.
All right, cool.
Okay. So we're, excuse me, looks like $10,661 for the licensing, and then another $4,235 for, that's training allowance, basically, for
That's
a
the
year?
initial training. That's what Esri recommends for all initial staff, and that'll be different levels of training. Initially budgeted by the township was more to cover additional training as we develop projects. But this initial training gets us web seminars, group training for people that are doing similar projects, and specialized training for, say, code enforcement versus the engineer. So it's very flexible in that sense.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions?
No.
No? Okay. So I guess we really, it's the same company, so we could really do one motion.
It was $14,896 for both together.
Okay. All right, 14,896. Is there any public comment? No? Okay. All right, so then we'd be looking at approving the proposal to purchase GIS software from Esri, Environmental Systems Research Institute, in the amount the software licensing and training in the amount of $14,896.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Boraski?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Vince?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
your work on that, Mr.
Take
Markey.
care.
I know that's been a while working on that.
Hopefully it'll be a good thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 9, consider authorization for advertisements for tree trimming and removal of tree services in Falls Township. Mr. Gray.
Yes, Board is asked to consider the approval for authorization for advertisement for tree trimming for trees in the township. We did this last year. It was a successful program, and we're looking to do it again. We had a problem with ash trees last year. We would continue with that process, and also other trees that may be problematic from time to time. Mr. Lawson is here as well for any questions the board may have.
Okay. All right, so I know this is, and we went through a couple different variations of this bid, of the bid specs last year. This is, I'm assuming, the a repeat of the one we did before, or?
Repeat, we did a little bit of changes with questions and concerns from the tree bidders that we had. They said that they don't do hourly rates, they do half-day rates, full-day rates, so we put that in. I think we changed some insurance things that they had concerns about. And I think that's, what we changed in there. There was the bid bond. We had a problem with the bid bond, so we made one specific bid bond. Everybody has to do 10,000, so there shouldn't be any issues with that. If they don't have 10,000, they didn't do the bond right.
Okay.
So hopefully that will simplify, clarify, and make it easier for the bids to come through. Like Mr. Gray said, we have some ash bug issues with the trees. We now have this spotted lanternfly, which I didn't even know about until they brought it to our attention. I talked to Pete. Pete brought it right up on his thing. He already had it. Apparently it's in the upper part of county, but how it's getting to our lower end of the county is people who work in the upper part of the county, they get on the car, they come down. Now it's, in our area. The killing of the trees and the plants that the spotted lanternfly does isn't like the ash borer, but it's going to be a problem. There may be a chance of treating with chemicals or even soaps or something for that, but I'm still learning about it. So hopefully we can not have the trees killed like the ash borer. And then just general old trees dead on our property. We have a lot of property that butt up to residents, and we get calls all the time that, hey, we got a dead tree, we don't want this to fall on our house. We try our best to make it safe for the residents, but sometimes we go out and it's like, the tree's alive, but we do have some issues for maintenance or possibility of falling, and then we do get into arguments with residents. Well, not arguments, but disagreements with residents. They don't want it taken down. We're trying to take it down. So it's tough with the trees. So hopefully we'll get a good bidder. Not to say that the bidder that we had last year wasn't good. My thoughts are, all tree guys, work well with us. Hopefully we just get a good deal with the township and, or for the township, and correct, whatever issues we may have.
Okay. All right, any comments or questions, Mr. Lawson?
None.
Was there a mandatory walkthrough for any of this?
No, because it's not really a specific spot that we have. I mean, we have a few specific spots, but nothing that's going to be like a huge project. So it might be one or two trees here, one or two trees there. As we get phone calls from residents, we'll go out, we'll look at it, we'll assess it, see if we can take it down. We're going to try our best to take it down in-house. And if not, then we'll, call in a tree person. So there's no specific area that we're going to take down 20 trees, 10 trees. So we didn't feel that it was important to have a mandatory.
Yeah, we had that last year. We had sort of big sections, which is.
Last year we had a specific area. Our main goal was the park. The walking path of the park was our main goal to get that safe for the residents. So
That looks good there.
it got cut really back really far, and I think it eliminated a lot of potential hazards that we had. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Mr. Dents?
No, I have no questions.
Mr. Rocco?
No, looks good.
Okay. Any public comment needed? Okay. All right, this is just, we're authorizing advertisement for the tree trimming and removal of tree services. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, see Mr. Lawson's going to be hanging with us for a couple more agenda items. Consider authorization for advertisement for landscaping services at the township. We've done this obviously pretty regularly.
We did this 3 years ago. We're on a 3-year cycle. This contractor was awarded the last time to WDB Landscaping, and we're looking for authorization again this year for another 3-year cycle.
All right, comments or questions for Mr. Lawson while he's here, or Mr. Gray? Pretty just.
Any new areas? Do we add anything new to the?
Yeah, anything new?
No, I mean, yes, 3 Arches was not in the last bid. We added that in this bid. We asked for a weekly maintenance on 3 Arches because we have events there and stuff like that. So we asked for a weekly maintenance of the beds and that at 3 Arches.
Okay.
And that, I think that's the only area that we added on.
I think everything else is the same.
Everything else is the same.
Right.
Okay. All right, any other questions, comments? Okay, is there a motion to authorize advertisement for landscaping services for the townships from the years 2019, 2020, 2021?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Mr. Harvey, I should have told you, it's an alternative bid, right? So if we elect to have them, we're gonna do it for 1 year and elect 2 and 3?
They can do an option for 2 and 3.
Yeah, okay, I didn't know,
Spelled out, and
okay,
that's-
I didn't know.
yeah, that's fine.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. No, that's fine. I appreciate the clarification. Item 11 is consider quotes for fertilizer for township facilities. Mr. Lawson, you're up there, or Mr. Gray?
So this would be we received 3 quotes from different turf management companies that do the fertilizing, spraying for the ticks. I believe they do the fleas down at the park, the dog park, stuff like that, the few ball fields that we have. And basically, True Green is the lowest bidder again. They kept the same price for the last 3 years. So we're hoping that, we can continue to service with them.
Okay. And we see the 3 lowest bidders. True Green is the low bid, $17,817, which is the same as last year. Capital Turf Management, $22,585. Total Lawn Care, $24,528. So roughly $7,000 spread between lowest to highest. Comments or questions regarding any of this with Mr. Lawson?
Yeah, at the Quaker Penn Park, does it include the soccer field as well?
Yes, with the spraying. The fertilization part of it, I do not believe so, no. But for the spraying of the ticks and things that, I think it's ticks and fleas.
Yeah.
The fertilizer would be on the ball field and the infield of the baseball seeding.
Yeah, is there?
But there was an option that was brought to us from Brian from the soccer field now that they are going to be using that field, and we haven't really put that together yet because we were in limbo. Brian wasn't clear to was the soccer paying for it, were we paying for it? They wanted to split it, so I was just waiting for him to get back to me on what actually is going to go on down there.
Okay, so maybe if we decide to do something, maybe we could get True Green to bid it and we could just amend it.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think that was Fall Soccer's desire, correct?
Yeah, well, I think we actually met earlier today with some reps from the Fall Soccer Club regarding a couple of things. That was one of the things they mentioned is that in the springtime especially, they're shutting down 3 of the fields in the main park because of just the condition they're in is not great after the bad fall and winter with all the rain. And so they are going to be using the Quaker Penn Park more,
Right.
I think maybe than they have in the past. But I know sometimes they've done work on their own on there, because they've actually had, in some cases, had professionals, members of their club who are actually landscape professionals and turf guys, for, like, it's what they do for a living. But I don't know, they didn't necessarily bring that up this afternoon regarding fertilization, so we can certainly check with them and
Because there was some leveling off of topsoil and stuff like that that they wanted. Talking with Mr. Jones last week and this week, over at the St. Joe's, they're looking to get rid of some dirt. So they're going to find out how much dirt they actually want to get rid of. If they're looking to get rid of a lot, I suggest that possibly we'll rent a sifting machine. We'll run it and get as much topsoil as we can off of them. We'll do some leveling off of the fields there, some backfilling of the composite toilet down there, compost toilet, I'm sorry, and some of the other areas that we have along the green belts and stuff like that. So if we can get the free dirt, renting the sifting machine, getting the topsoil would be the best. I think we pay $400 a truckload now through Britain when we want the topsoil, the clean topsoil. So that would be good thing if we can get that dirt off them. So they're going to get back to us. Steve's going to get back to us about how much they want to get rid of.
Okay, all right.
So that may help us down there.
Yeah, sounds good.
Sounds good, yeah.
All right, so any other questions or comments regarding the bids?
None.
No.
All right, so are we, okay, is there a motion then to accept the quote and award the work for fertilization to True Green in the amount of $17,817?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Boraski?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Items 12 and 13 are both related to the electrical work and camera installation work down at Quaker Penn Park. Mr. Gray, I know you're going to throw this right to Mr. Jones, or you can do some work yourself.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Jones, make sure you pull that microphone a little closer there. Thanks.
Item number 12, we're asking the board to officially revoke the notice of intent that you authorized us to send to RF Design and Integration Incorporated for the Quaker Penn Electric and Camera Project. Their bid was $62,858. We found out after we issued the notice of intent that they cannot meet our responsible contract ordinance.
Okay.
So we're asking for an official revocation of that NOI.
And they're aware of that?
They are. I spoke with them, and they apologized. It was a misstep. They thought they'd be able to team up with a subcontractor who might put them over the finish line, but they could not.
All right. Is there a motion then to revoke the notice of intent to award to RF, right? To RF?
Yes, sir.
So moved. I'll make the motion.
Seconded.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unfortunate they bid such a big electrical project, or majority of the project was electrical, and they wasted everybody's time.
Right, and they did apologize, Mr. Boraski. The next item is obviously for the next bidder to authorize us to issue a notice of intent to award to Fidelity Alarm, and I did speak with their president, and they said that they can meet that responsible contractor ordinance and that they do participate in the Class A apprenticeship program. So I went through the ordinance with them pretty thoroughly, and they indicated that they'll be able to meet it. We'll see.
Do we use Fidelity Alarm for other things here?
We have used them in the past, yes.
Is there an option to reject all the bids at this point, or do we have to go to the next bidder?
Yes, the board always has the option of rejecting all bids.
Make a motion to reject all the bids at this point.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Discussion?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. Harvey, if the board is so inclined, then a direction to the manager to rebid the project would be appropriate as well.
Right. Is there a motion to authorize rebidding of the project for the electrical and camera installation at Quaker Penn Park?
So moved.
Hold on. Go ahead.
I was just wondering if there was, if we can discuss maybe separating it. It seems
That's
to be
what I was
that
going to suggest.
Huh?
I was going to suggest the
Seems
same
that the
thing.
camera, the electrical contractors, the cameras that were spec'd for the job are, a little bit out of their realm, and they're kind of like very specific and expensive, so it was hard for the electrical contractors to bid that portion of it. I don't think anyone had, RF has done stuff for us in the past, and there's been no issue with their camera work. it's the fact that they bid on an electrical project. So maybe we could separate the two. I don't know how much work that would be.
We can,
Professionals or time, the time restraints on that.
yeah, we can certainly work with Mr. Gray to determine whether that's possible. If it is, both items would have to be bid. They would just be bid separately in that case, because the total project cost does exceed the bid threshold.
Would the camera work actually rise to the bidding threshold?
Because the total project cost does, even though the camera work may not rise the bid threshold, it would still have to be bid.
All right.
They're almost even. Like
Are they? Okay, I was just curious. All right.
If you were to split the bids in half, maybe the electrical was, a few
Slightly
thousand. Yeah, it's slightly. It's
Yeah, I
a
was
little
just
bit.
curious.
But the cameras were so expensive.
All right.
But we'll work with Mr. Gray to see if that can be done. If it can, we'll separate them out.
So can we still make a motion to?
We'll make a motion to authorize rebidding of the project, leave it that open, so that way it can be split up into two different phases, sort of phase 1, phase 2, and get two different bidders, or potentially one bidder who can do both jobs.
Correct.
Okay, is there a
Sounds
motion to that effect?
Yeah.
I'll
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Who made the motion?
You did.
Okay,
I'll second that motion.
sorry.
We're good.
Cold medicine still kicking in?
Yes.
All right, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, item 14 is consider purchase of vehicles for the police department. Mr. Gray.
Yes, I received a memo from Lieutenant Pletnick about the purchase of 2 vehicles for the police department. One is a 2019 Dodge Charger. The second is a 2019 Ford F-150 that would be used for weighing of trucks. Total cost for both vehicles is $86,357.20. This would be purchased from New Holland Ford, which is a CoStar's vendor. There is a slight overage of the budget, and in Lieutenant Pletnick's memo, he indicated that they will forego a purchase from another item in their budget for 2019 to make up for the difference. Also, Lieutenant Pletnick is here for any questions you may have.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening.
Evening. I just wanted to add that these vehicles aren't adding to the fleet. They're replacing 2 vehicles now that are, one of them, our mix-up van, which is the truck inspection van, 186,000 miles, blown engine, gone. And the other one is a Crown Victoria 2010 with 110,000 miles that is quite worn. That would be replaced by the Dodge Charger.
Okay. All right, any comments or questions for Lieutenant Pletnick regarding the 2 purchases?
No.
No.
No? Okay. Any public comment? 2 hands. All right, is there a motion then to authorize the purchase of the 2 police vehicles from New Holland Ford off the CoStar's vendor list in total amount of $86,357.20?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Boraski?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dent?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you,
you,
Lieutenant.
gentlemen.
I think we'll probably get back to you in a few minutes. You here? Yep. All right, item 15 is consider adopting an ordinance amending Chapter 209 zoning district map of the Township of Falls, rezoning a certain land identified at Bucks County as Bucks County tax parcel map number 13-015-001-005, rezoning from LR, low density residential, to NC neighborhood commercial district. Ms. Gallagher, I believe you worked on this.
I did. Thank you, Mr. Harvey. This is a request that came from the property owner to rezone this parcel. As you indicated, this would be rezoning the parcel from LR to NC. The applicant's attorney is here this evening to discuss the proposal. I would note that this has been advertised consistent with the requirements of the municipality's planning code, and the property was also posted on February the 1st.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is David Sowerbutts. I'm here on behalf of the current owners, Gino and June Ferrante. With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I would like to read a very brief statement from Mr. Ferrante. On behalf of myself and my wife, this authorizes you and Mr. Trimble to speak on behalf of on our behalf at the Board of Supervisors meeting on February 19, 2019. Please offer our apologies for our absence. My wife and I are on a trip confirmed many months ago, and we were unable to change or cancel it. Our property has never been residential. From the time it was built, it has been used for offices and other non-residential uses predating our ownership. The requested change in zoning will only reflect the actual use of the property since the time it was built. On behalf of my wife and I thank the board for their consideration. And with me tonight to assist and answer any questions and provide any additional background information is Mr. Walter Trimble, who's a very experienced real estate broker that I'm sure none of you know, and it's probably never seen before in your lives.
Related to Dick Trimble?
I like to be precise. Walter Trimble is here with me this evening. This property was first developed back in '53. 2 of the 3 buildings were put up. In '68, the building in the back was put up. Most people in the township would know that this is the property that had the Fairless Medical Office, the Fairless Hills Medical Office. So it's had a succession of medical uses to daycares, dentist, and a number of professional offices over the years. In the 66 years that it's been in existence, it has never once had a residential use. None of the prior owners, including the current owners, have ever intended to use it as a residential property. And the reason that I got involved is because the property owners have a tenant that wishes to come in and provide, basically counseling, therapy, behavioral health services. And of course, another variance was necessary because of the construction of the old code. And I suggested that it just simply be rezoned, which was a recommendation that Mr. Trimble had made very clearly right from the beginning. So essentially all that we are asking the supervisors to do is correct something that was probably inadvertently done 66 years ago and change the zoning to reflect what it's always been and what it will always be. And the NC uses are perfect and perfectly match up with the history of the property. I'll stop there, and if you have any questions or require any more information, I will be glad to assist you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions? Mr. Sauerbutz or Mr. Trimble?
No, it makes sense to know the property.
No.
No, I think in the 10 years I've been here, me and Mr. Trimble have spoken more about this property than anything else. But yeah, it just makes sense.
I do have a tendency to overspeak.
I can't comment on that.
Not for you guys, but Ms. Gallagher, you're okay with their request? You've reviewed it?
It meets all the legal requirements, yes. It's consistent with the current use of the property, the past use of the property, and the character of the surrounding neighborhood.
Okay, cool. No, I don't have anything.
Yeah, it's actually where I went to get my orthodontist was there back when I was like,
Yes.
back in the mid '80s, I guess, when I had my braces on. So I know it's been, at least from that long. Okay. Any public comment? Okay. All right. So this would be an ordinance 019 or 2019 -1. Okay, which would be rezoning this property from LR to NC. Okay. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Patience and your help.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Sure. All right, moving on, the minutes, January 15th, 2019. Any comments, questions, suggestions, corrections?
Excellent minutes as always, Mrs. Pullen.
You'll be earning your pay with the minutes from tonight's meeting, I guess. You've had it easy for a while, Mrs. Pullen, but now it's good.
The good old days, right,
That's
Mrs.
right.
Pullen?
Be paying for carpal tunnel syndrome surgery pretty soon, probably. Is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
Yes. So moved. Seconded.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Let's take a brand-new format engineers report.
Bam.
Okay.
Yeah, board members, Mr. Chairman, we hope that you appreciate our efforts in trying to make our engineer's report a little more succinct and clear from the last version. We felt the last one was kind of reading more like a book than an actual engineer's report. So we come up with this format, and it's a work in progress, so any comments are welcome. But the first part of it is a brief description, describes what projects were submitted in the month that the report's for. The second section will identify all the projects that we're actively involved with, separating between land development and earth disturbance, and we're sticking with the red formatted text to alert you that there's an update, and then the page number where that update exists. And in the back of the report, we're carrying along what we're calling legacy projects, which is basically a copy of the previous engineer's report. Just, they're dormant for various reasons, and they may come back to life. Hopefully, we'll move projects in and out of that frequently. So that's the format that we have. Again, we'll probably, we may update and make this a little bit more robust next month, add a little bit more information, but keep it with that succinct format, so you're not fumbling through. And in terms of the active projects, I would just touch base on the 2018 road program. The contractor is going to demobilize from this site for a month. Paving plants are shut down, so he wishes to come back when the paving plants open up. Curbs are constructed all throughout the project. The storm sewer improvements are installed. Each resident has access to their driveways, so there's no unsafe conditions. And when they come back, we'll start working on the replacement of the shared drive road base.
In the electronic version, I can't see the red highlights. Is that your fault, or the township scanned it that way?
Well, I think that's probably a scan issue, but I'll make sure that I post this if you're using the Basecamp environment, and I'll make sure it's colored. We're actually, if you prefer an electronic copy, we'll make it easier and make the red text an actual link to the update.
Oh, impressive.
Fancy, Mr. Jones.
Very fancy.
Might be too much for him.
I'm going to say it for the first time, Sullivan never did it like this.
Never did.
So we just got to make sure Mr. Sullivan knew that you threw him under the bus with how awful his engineer's reports were.
Nobody used the word awful except for you, Mr. Hart.
And all, due transparency, I actually wrote it, so you can criticize myself.
Any other comments or questions regarding engineers' projects?
Yeah, just St. Joe's Court, how's everything going there?
Everything's going fine. They have a large topsoil stockpile, as you heard about, and they asked for a different access to export the topsoil. That's how we kind of interrupted them and said we might like some. But the report identifies the different improvements that are done. They have a lot of foundations in, the road's under base. So it's moving along.
Is there streetlights?
No.
Are you planning on putting on streetlights?
For sure, but I don't believe that they're ready for them yet. Personally, I'm not sure. I'd have to talk to Steve about that and find out when they intend to. But
That's not a problem for the people that are moving in? They seem pretty, I guess, anxious to get in.
yeah, they're anxious to get in.
Yeah.
And we'll look into that. And if it's a safety issue, we'll certainly require them to put them in.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I've been getting a few questions about the Outback Steakhouse that's going to go where the old country buffet was. What's the status of that?
No action. According to our inspector, there has been no activity and no request.
Okay. The other one is the Peruzzi. What is he doing over there?
I'm not aware what Peruzzi's doing.
Number 19?
If you look at the front of
Page
the
12?
sheet,
Earth disturbance.
Gotcha.
Page.
Page 12.
Thank you.
About cutting curbs and stuff, it says. And
Yeah, we have no activity, so we'll have to send our inspector to see if there's actual activity. But as of our latest review, they hadn't responded. We told them that they needed an HOP in order to construct the curbs because they were within or close enough to the right-of-way, and they were altering that curb line that is along the right-of-way, and it fell into dormancy. They didn't respond to our review letter, and I was not aware that they were actually constructing it.
got ya.
I did notice there's a few pools on here. Did you get a request from Culver yet? Culver?
Yeah, I believe the culvert is under construction.
Culver?
Culver, yes, the culvert pool.
Two different things.
Talking about two different things. Talking about the swimming
He's
pool.
thinking here culvert.
I know, he's thinking culvert.
No, culvert pool. I
Oh,
understand.
Culver pool, okay.
Culver. There's a pool that, and we use the last name of the resident, and it's Culver.
Okay.
Is it on the list, or?
It's number 24, Mr. Rocco.
Yeah, right-hand side of it.
Oh, got it, cool, thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, yeah, the red makes it easy.
Yeah.
What about the composting toilets down at the park?
We are on hold, waiting for, according to Old Castle, they're the folks that are building it and going to drop it off and drop it into the hole. We worked with Public Works in order to set the hole or the pit up properly based on the right elevations, and we were scheduled twice for that delivery, and twice they pulled back and said we can't because they weren't confident the crane they need to install it would wouldn't sink and get buried into the mud. So they told us that they were going to wait for a freeze, which we don't think we're going to have unless we have 3 or 4 weeks of, sub-freezing temperatures. So I think they're going to have to ultimately come out and put mats down and get the crane out there that way. But it's been a bit of an issue, and we've been out there twice, and I'm sure Mr. Lawson's no longer here, but he spent a lot of time cleaning up and getting the hole ready for that delivery, and 2 times they canceled on us. So.
All right. So we're thinking sometime in the spring now?
Thinking in the spring, and we're going to have to, and I'm not sure, I have to talk to Mr. Andrews as to whether they included that in their scope, but, in their cost, but they're going to have to probably put mats down in order to walk the crane out and not have it, sink.
All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Anybody else? Any public comment? See one hand. Motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Mrs. Batista?
Just real quick, is there any information on the old Pathmark Fun Zone is going to open?
Yeah, I actually did talk to the owner a couple of weeks ago. They were talking about sometime soon, like May maybe, opening up in May. I actually went into the property and took a look. May seemed pretty ambitious from what I was seeing inside, based on what they were doing. They did have a small fire there a couple weeks ago. Electricians were there. I don't know. I think somebody, quite frankly, I think somebody dropped a cigarette butt somewhere they shouldn't have, and that caused a small fire. But I don't think it is going to slow them down too much.
Okay.
But yeah, I know they're a couple of months away.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other public comment? Okay. Is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the engineer's report as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, bill list tonight, bills in the amount of $2,126,345.03. So approximately $2.1 million. Of that $2.1 million, about $1.7 million is salary, benefits, insurance, life insurance, workers' comp insurance, road work, $28,000 in salt, as well as about $32,000 in escrow, which is money from developers, and about $77,000 in state funds for a couple different things. So about 1.7 again of the 2.1 is just those couple items. Any comments or questions for Mr. Gray regarding the bill list?
No.
No. Public comment? Is there a motion to pay the bills, $2,126,345.03?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Bransky?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, we actually had an executive session before, and I forgot to ask our solicitor to summarize the executive session.
Yes, Mr. Harvey, prior to the meeting, the board held an executive session to discuss matters related to a collective bargaining agreement and various personnel matters.
Okay, thank you. All right, police department report. Lieutenant Plotnick,
Good evening again, gentlemen.
you gotta move that microphone up too, just.
I'm sorry. Yeah, let me keep this short, sweet, and to the point. Excuse me. Compensation to the township from the Commonwealth for citations and fines issued for 2018 totaled $132,915.99. The Chief for a Day program is well underway, and we're currently hosting students from Oxford Valley Elementary, Eleanor Roosevelt, and the Penn Rin School. Total of 16 students, 4 down, 12 more to go. It's a great program. We're currently in the process of choosing candidates for the Safety Net program. This program is replacing the Rapid Recovery program, which is Rapid Recovery was a really antiquated technology for finding people that wore a certain bracelet, dementia, Alzheimer's, or those that aren't able to care for themselves. So the new program is called Safety Net, and anybody interested can get involved through the Chief's Executive Secretary, Gina Seiler, at 215-949-9100, extension 303. Next Coffee with a Cop is scheduled for March 29th from 9:30 to 11:30 at the Falls Township Senior Center. Excuse me. Our detectives have recently assisted Middletown Township Police Department Narcotics Unit with a narcotics operation. I'll read a quick attachment to that the chief gave me. On Thursday, February 14th, 2019, Falls Township detectives assisted the Middletown Police Narcotics Unit with a narcotics operation in the 1000 block of Trenton Road. For several weeks, an undercover Falls Township Police detective purchased bricks of heroin from a drug dealer who would deliver the drugs from Trenton, New Jersey. Each brick contains 50 bags of heroin. During the Thursday sale, the dealer was arrested and sent to Bucks County Prison to await trial. Also assisting was the Mercer County Drug Task Force. The dealer's New Jersey home was searched, and an additional 34 bricks, which totaled 1,700 bags of heroin, were discovered. On Sunday, February 17th, 2019, Township Police Officer Nicole Davini conducted a narcotics investigation in the 1400 block of Bristol Pike. Excuse me. She discovered an individual who was in possession of a loaded rifle and approximately 3/4 of an ounce of methamphetamine. The individual was processed, and a felony arrest warrant is being obtained for that person. And also, the drug take-back is scheduled for April 27th, 2019, and the Shredder event at the same day. The Shredder event will be from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m., and the drug take-back specifically from 9 a.m. till 1 p.m. And just a reminder, there is a box in the records department of the police department that is open during normal business hours for people to drop off their unused medications. And that is it.
What was open 24 hours?
I'm sorry?
I didn't hear the last part.
No, I was just saying that there is a box in the police records department that's opened when records is open for people to drop off their narcotics.
Oh, okay.
Specifically when the take-back isn't there, and that
Oh,
gets
okay.
filled up quite often, actually.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, comments or questions for Lieutenant Platley?
No.
No,
Okay.
thank you for the update.
Thank you, appreciate it. Manager comment.
Just a few items tonight. First item is in regard to donation requests. Township received the following donation requests from the American Legion for their Memorial Day Parade. $6,000 has been budgeted. Towns Against Graffiti, TAG, that would be for $5,000 in the budget. Delaware Valley Vietnam Veterans, 34th Annual Donald Jones Flag Memorial, $6,000. And Historic Fallsington, for the Historic Fallsington Day, also $6,000. The board is asked to consider these donations.
Okay, comments or questions?
No,
Okay.
they're all standard.
Is there a
right?
motion? Yeah, they're all standard. We've done these for years. Is there a motion to authorize all 4 donation requests to the 4 agencies Mr. Gray just outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Bransky?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
The Township received a letter dated February 13th from Jones Engineering. In the letter, Mr. Jones is discussing escrow release number 1 for Abington Relden Metals. The release is for $844,796.19. The board is asked to consider escrow release number 1 for Abington Relden.
Okay, comments or questions for Mr. Jones?
No.
None.
Is there a motion to authorize the release of escrow number 1 for Abington Reldon?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Bransky?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
My next item is in regard to the Tree Vitalize Spring 2019 Bare Root Tree Offer. Recently, the township received an application for the annual Spring Bare Root Tree Offer. The bare root trees would be available in April for planting shortly thereafter. We've been doing this program for many years, and over 540 trees have been purchased through this program. An application is required. The Shade Tree Committee is requesting 15 trees at a cost of $50 each for a total of $750. The deadline for the application is Friday, March 1st. The board is asked to consider the purchase of 15 trees as part of the Tree Vitalize program for $750.
Okay, comments or questions?
No.
No.
Okay, anything from public? Okay, is there a motion to authorize the expenditure, $750 for 15 bare root trees?
Yes, so moved.
Second?
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Bransky?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
On January 16, 2019, a hearing was held pursuant to Section 206-12 of the Falls Township Code regarding allegations that Emily Towing had violated Chapter 206 of the code. Based on the evidence presented, it is recommended that the Board of Supervisors find that Emily Towing did not violate Chapter 206 of the Township Code. It is further recommended that no further action be taken regarding this alleged violation.
Can you explain?
Yes, apparently there was a list that was sent out to all the towers in late December, and on that list, Emily Towing was originally assigned January 3rd as their first day of service. Inadvertently, Superior Motors was left off the heavy-duty list, though they had submitted an application for heavy-duty. This was the first year Superior applied for and was eligible to serve as a heavy-duty tower. The error was caught, and a new list was circulated on December 28th. The new list was created by reshuffling all of the heavy-duty towers and not by adding Superior to the end of the rotation. With the reshuffling, Emily was assigned to January 2nd, 2019. At the hearing, a representative for Emily claimed that they had not been notified of the new date until the actual call for service and were unable to respond because the driver that is capable of driving the heavy-duty vehicle was not available.
So we screwed up?
Yeah.
In speaking
We
with,
brought the guy in for a hearing?
Well, yes.
Well, we didn't, I guess we didn't know. Did we not know?
it wasn't, when we were discussing this with the representative from Emily and Lieutenant Ward was not sure whether Emily was one of the organizations he was able to get a hold of in advance of the first. So we weren't able to determine whether or not that phone call was actually placed. But Emily Towing did assure us that they would be able to comply with the requirements moving forward and that they were aware of the new rotation.
Okay. So there's no action for us this time? It'll take just...
It would just be accepting the manager's recommendation.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to accept the manager's recommendation regarding Emily Towing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
And finally, I just want to announce new businesses that were approved to open operations in Falls Township during the month of January. They include Steam Team LLC, located at 225 Lincoln Highway, Suite 217, and Web Linked Solutions, 251 South Olds Boulevard. The Falls Banquet by Even Troster, 80 MY Lane in Morrisville, and Superior Car Wash, 553 Lincoln Highway, Fairless Hills. With that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Superior Car Wash isn't a new business?
A new owner.
Change ownership.
Change of ownership. That's all I have.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr.
thank
Chairman.
you. Board comment. Mr. Galloway?
No comments, none.
Mr. Boraski?
No, thank you.
Mr. Dents?
None.
Mr. Rocco?
Yeah, I just wanted to run something by you guys. I'm anticipating public comment being quite long for the next, I don't know, however many meetings. I think perhaps we should consider moving public comment down in our agenda to allow some of the, for us to do business. Not that public comment isn't valuable, but, there's a lot of people sitting around today for over an hour. We had a busy agenda. So I don't know what you want to think about it, or even how that works. Are we able to just shuffle things around if we want?
Yeah,
As long as we advertise?
we
or-
take public comment on all of our agenda items as they come up. So you're allowed by the right to, the sunshine law, to move public comment on general matters to the end of your agenda if you want to.
Yeah, it used to be down
Yep.
quite a ways. So,
Yeah, we did, for a while, we were doing land development, anything that had professionals, anything that had, some more like this, things we had this evening. We did do them earlier and then did public comment and then got to sort of township business,
I'd be
other
fine with
things.
that.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Get the professionals out of the way so they don't have to sit here.
yeah, and I'm sure the clock's running for them as well.
Sure, for the developers. That was one of the ideas why we moved it. I think we started having so few people coming to public comment that we
Yeah.
just moved it to the front of the meeting because
Right.
was no, was no harm.
So
you
with
know?
that, so every month, it depends on what's on the agenda, where public comment would.
Right, it's going to be somewhere toward the top, but, if we don't have any land development, that would be the first thing. If we had 1 or 2 land developments, it would be third or second or fourth or something like that.
Sounds like that.
So, okay?
Yeah.
Good? All right, I think that makes sense.
Okay, cool.
All right?
Thanks.
It's a good suggestion, thank you. And I don't have anything else. Just thank everybody for a good meeting and for all the work they put in and for the patience of those who waited till the end. We do have some people who have put in letters of interest for a couple of our boards and commissions. I would ask board members to do their best over the next couple weeks to try and touch base with them so that we can start filling some of the spots we have on some of these boards.
And we're still looking for letters. We haven't.
Right, we do have a couple,
Vacancy on the planning
a couple vacancies, so something to consider, so. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Oh, my God, I can't.